is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Wherever we find you, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, our YouTube channel, Sportsnet Now, iTunes, Spotify, on the 401, Don Valley Parkway. Anywhere.
Do people still listen in their cars?
I don't. Yes, of course they
Hope
do.
so.
Yeah, I guess that's important. I feel like podcast is like the go-to method.
Just close your eyes right now and envision someone stuck in construction traffic right now, cursing and going, thank God I got Real Kyper and Bourne.
We got you. We got you. We got tons
do.
to talk about today.
So sit back and relax. Stick it in park. You're not going anywhere.
I'm actually the worst when it comes to when I'm stuck in traffic. I just get so pissed off that I just turn everything off and rage sometimes. I'm just no sound, no music, just stew. I hate traffic so much. I am the worst.
My wife's same way. What are you gonna do? You just sit there and I don't know.
If there's an open pylon, I'll go through it. If it's knocked over, I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. I'm not allowed in this lane.
For me, it's like I feel
Sorry.
like I'm so busy. It's like an excuse to just sit there for a bit.
I mean, it's
It's a depressing thing to
No.
say, but it's like a moment of I'm just going to listen to music.
Can I say something to you that one of the great pleasures in my life is the 20 minutes I'm underground on my way here on the subway every day.
No cell service.
No cell service. I'll read a book, listen to a podcast. There's no one can get me.
You're almost Ben Affleck. The best 10 minutes of my day are when I park my car before I get to your door. Isn't that a line from Good Will Hunting?
I think it is. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it is.
So,
I do like the subway, though.
Yeah?
I probably 80% of the time, I take it to the Scotiabank Arena.
Turn the brain off. You get mobbed by fans.
Well, mobbed is a different word now on the TTC, unfortunately.
yeah, fair enough.
We've gone through a little bit of a bad stretch. My wife's like, you're not taking the TTC.
Oh,
Okay?
jeez.
Someone's going to push you.
My
And I'm
wife's like, definitely take the TTC. What's my?
There's less people
I'm
on there now.
done.
Guys like Kyper are staying home.
hey, if anyone's doing pushing, it's me.
Kipper's leading the push. Yeah.
I'm like, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
No, but we are glad everybody's listening
Yes.
wherever you are and arriving safely and all in one piece.
Quick one before we get into hockey.
All right.
Tiger Woods about to play his first competitive golf round of the year today at his course at his tournament Genesis at Riviera.
Yeah.
I'm setting the over/under at 74.5 for a round today. Are you guys taking the over or the under?
And just imagine not being a Tiger believer. Like he said, he made some comment like I wouldn't play in this tournament like as a ceremonial golfer.
Well, yeah, but he
it's
says that
his
all the time.
tournament. There is a sense that I'm going to help my own tournament.
I got.
He
I'll
owns
take
it,
under.
doesn't he?
I don't know what that means.
No, he's
I
the
honestly
host.
don't know what it means.
He's the host
But
of
what's
it.
He's the
that
host,
mean?
but he's got stake
Yes.
in one or two. And one of the main reasons why you would never get Rory or Tiger on the live side is because they have ownership stake in the PGA.
Yeah, but I mean, they mentioned in the new documentary that he got offered $700 million to go to live.
Tiger did?
Yeah.
$700
$700 million. Anyways, that's
Just
like,
before you
so
hit one
under
off the first
or
tee.
over?
Under for me. Yeah.
Kip.
You said under?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
a Tiger fan.
He won't. Would 76 embarrass him
Nope.
today?
I think that's what I'm going to say too. 76 for me.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll say 76.
I would say that of all sport things, the team or whatever that I have rooted for the most in my life is Tiger Woods. I know he's not an awesome guy. I'm aware of his history. I know he's a weird dude, whatever. I was just of the age when I was golfing. I was 16 when he was coming up.
Hit me at the perfect time.
Right.
Yes.
So I just have been a Tiger.
I would say he is my favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah, I would say he is mine too. And again, I'm aware of what Tiger.
Listen, they're all bad.
There is no Mother Teresa on the court out there.
All right. We will mention your book today because it's 4 years that you're sober, which
Yes.
is a great anniversary for you. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, my
Congratulations
man.
on Down and Back, which is off to a great start. #1 in sports on Amazon. That is so cool because my name's on the back of the book, I think, somewhere.
That's a help, and that's why it's moving.
Without a doubt. So we'll touch base on that a little later on in the show. Let's just go to the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yes.
That's the way it's supposed to kind of work out when you're considered one of the better teams in the National Hockey League against one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League. That's being a pro last night.
Sammy said 9-1, and there was a moment in the first period, I think when the goal got disallowed to make it 4-1 or something, where I was like, it might get there. Like, it just looked like an absolute lopsided affair. It did not get there. It actually was fairly close to my 5-1 prediction, 5-2 in the end, but yeah, not much of a hockey game there. I'll be honest. I said to you, Kipper, there's not much more to say after that game than there was no game. I mean, we're going to try. We got 2 hours here, but like
we can't do it justice last night, that hockey game. Let's let Sheldon Keefe tell us exactly what he thought of last night's game.
Frankly speaking, it's a game we're not gonna evaluate too much in terms of anything good, anything bad. We're gonna watch it, move on, enjoy a day off tomorrow, and get ready for Montreal.
See, to me, that's one of his best Kipper's Clipper of the year.
Way to go, Sheldon.
Because he ain't fooling anyone. That game last night from the Chicago Blackhawks side was embarrassing.
No pushback for me. Like,
it was a joke, quite frankly.
It was embarrassing.
Like, would you have wanted them?
That is not a product there.
It's not a good look for the league to come bring that team into Toronto. And
you're asking people to pay $300, and I'm watching Peter Mrazek behind the net looking like a scene out of the Three Stooges where they're boink, boink. Like, the only thing missing are the sound bites from the Three Stooges. When
Peter Mrazek brought to you by slide whistles.
It's like, that's not an NHL team last night. That was, what is it? Rockport? Their American League team?
Yeah.
Rockport or
Rockford?
Rockford. Ice Hogs.
Rockford.
Ice Hogs, right?
The Rockford Ice Ports.
Yeah, whatever the hell they are. Shoes, aren't they? Aren't those Sammy's?
They are, yeah.
What Sammy's wearing on his feet right now?
Yeah, Rockport. Yeah.
The Rockports. But come on, that's not. And Sheldon's completely right. You think I'm going to tell you how hard our team worked, or you're going to tell me how structurally sound we were? At least Sheldon's smart enough to go, all right, let's move on.
Yeah, no, the credit for acknowledging it for what it was. And as you mentioned, they took care of business, but there was no pushback in the physical sense, in the defensive sense. Like, it was just.
I thought, they've played some bad teams this year, right? Like, we've come in here and talked about how bad, Columbus has looked at times, in the Anaheim game where they won was it 7-0 they beat Anaheim. And there's teams that they've played against, but I can't remember one that looked so shockingly with lack of effort, lack of pushback, lack of anything. At least Columbus was trying. Like, they were skating hard and they were big and they were leaning on guys. It's like Chicago just had no element of anything.
Yeah, that was a legit effort and a legit win against the Leaf team that on that particular Saturday night, they were outmatched physically. That was legit.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, would you like to see Chicago be, fight? Or, you know what I mean? Like, just some sort of some pushback. What are the expectations on that team? Everyone knows the losing is okay. It's such a bizarre way to go through the rest of the year, just going through the motions the way they did last night.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into Chicago a little bit more too, because I want to revisit some Pat Kane conversation with you guys. Let's go to Sheldon Keefe on what he saw out of his players.
We've been talking to our guys a lot, about taking charge. A lot of these guys have been playing together for a long time now. They have a sense of what the structure is, and they know what they can do, and they get the information on face-offs, and but they have a lot of flexibility to call the plays and get organized themselves, and that's what you want. You want the players out there taking charge. They have a sense, they have a feel. Obviously, that's the start of the game, but when you're in the game have a sense of your opponents. You have a sense of the timing. They have a feel for things that coaches just can't. We can't replicate that, and you need to be able to take charge out there. You watch any experience and championship caliber team. Their people are taking charge of different situations, and that's what you'll love to see those guys take that initiative and execute.
Right out of the gates, Blackhawks. Hey, way to go, fellas! But it was a great play. Great awareness on the Leafs' part, but shouldn't happen.
Well,
What, the 9 seconds in?
Right.
well, the guy that everybody was linking to the Leafs just blows a shoe immediately, like fell down, wide open lane for Willie.
Here's my chance to prove myself to the Leafs.
How many times did McCabe fall down last night? I wouldn't say it was a good audition for him at all.
No, absolutely not. Okay, we'll pick up on the players taking charge with Sheldon Keefe on his star attraction returning last night, Austin Matthews.
Yeah, I thought he was good, especially early in the game. Like when we had to really gain control. I thought our top two, both of the two lines, I thought when they were on the ice, I thought there was a pretty big gap. The ice was tilted for sure. And Austin in particular, I thought had some real good jump early. Loved the goal. I thought he had some other good plays too. I thought as the emotion of the game sort of dipped in the second half of the game, I thought everybody was just okay from there, but you're just trying to get out of the game.
Willie Nylander, 9 seconds in, scores his goal, the fourth fastest goal to start a game in Leaf history. I think he credited after the game Austin a little bit for maybe a set play.
Yep.
Which is great when it works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of, shall I say, the stretch look, which I saw quite a bit of last night out of Willie Nylander. Mm-hmm. And he's good, and I get all of that. And very instrumental sometimes on a forecheck. I get all of that. I get the career year. I'm still not 100% comfortable with the amount of times I see him trying to get behind D. And I'll use the term that I've used since I've heard it since I was 7 years old, cherry pick.
Yeah, I guess there's two ways to look at, that sort of stretch play, because I don't entirely disagree with you that, I think it's against the good teams. How often are you going to get behind, Hedman and whoever and get a breakaway?
Excellent point, JB. Yeah. Can you imagine now starting game one in Austin saying, hey, let's try that set play where you get behind Hedman, not McCabe, and you get behind Hedman. And I'm like that's not those type of scenarios should not be in your equation.
But they view
against those top teams.
It's not going to happen like that, but I think the team views it as stretching them out, forcing those deep hair back.
The problem is when it doesn't get completed, you are actually like
in traffic.
You're out of the play. Mm-hmm. You are the last man back. If there is any turnover, it's guaranteed to be an odd man rush because you got caught on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have the stats on who leads the league in breakaways, but I
remember once we did it in season, he was tops.
Willie Nylander would be right at the top.
Yeah.
This guy is constantly looking for it, which again, when it's completed and when you can go in 9 seconds to start a game, you look fantastic. It's when it's not completed that I'm worried about in the first round.
Yeah. I think the idea that I just mentioned can work in the sense that, okay, you don't want to let Willie fly behind you if you're the opposing team, right? So someone has to honor that. You can't just let him be back there. So if you're able to make plays underneath that and work your way up the ice and give yourself a little bit more room, that's fine. But when you're actually trying to complete the pass to him and it's not going to work most of the time, it's tough. You saw Sheldon talk about when he plays wing versus really center. Tough. They like when he's on wing because he can kind of do this and stretch them out rather than be.
Yeah.
When he's going, right?
Oh, when he was going.
Yeah. But how many times have we seen Mitch Marner come close to having a breakaway? Like, and how many times does he try to sneak in behind like that?
Yeah, they're just totally different players.
But it's not in his equation, right? Because Mitch doesn't. It's a gamble. Let's say what it is.
Yeah,
for Willie to go out and try to get behind D is what you hope in the best circumstances, a calculated gamble. You watch the discipline of Mitch Marner play the game, you'll hardly ever see him cheat anywhere.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I do feel like it's like an apples to oranges comparison because like Nylander is just a different thing. He's a different entity in the way he creates and produces and what he does to his team and the opposing team.
You're a head coach. Sheldon can kind of curtail that though.
If he wants to.
But
do you think that you want to stop Willie Nylander from breakaway hunting as one of we're talking about guys getting the second most in the league in breakaways is a negative thing.
At times, I would like to see it curtailed. Maybe it's situational. Maybe it's being up one goal and trying to protect the lead.
Yeah.
And no, don't want to see it.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, hey, you know, that's a good question about whether Willie has that sense or whether the coach has to go to him. They're up a goal and say, hey, can you just stop doing that?
I think doesn't also have a lot to do with who he's playing with. Like in terms of if he's playing with Tavares, I think he's got to be way more conscious in terms of coming back in the zone. But when you're playing with Austin Matthews, a guy that's one of the best defensive centers in the league, like we've talked about all his stats, like I want him cheating a little bit. Like he's got support. Matthews is down low. Like he's pretty smart at getting in the puck. They tried it last night with like the breakaway pass and they had the set play. Like I have enough trust in Austin's defense that I want a guy who's elite speed and scoring.
I think it's a great question. It's a great question. Do you want this guy to be playing that way?
Yeah,
I do.
You know?
I mean, I do. Yeah.
So if you think I'm the only one who might talk about Willie cherry picking a little bit too much, let's listen to one of his teammates describe Willie Nylander.
Yeah, I mean, it's he's feels like he's very hungry out there. He's working hard. He's back checking finally sometimes, but no, but he's great.
That was Rasmus Sandin on Willie Nylander.
That's a guy who goes for cocktails in Mexico with his buddy, just getting a barb in, right? Like
back checking
finally.
Yeah, he's just being playful.
Finally. No.
Oh, 100%.
No, but he's great.
That's me and a buddy, me being like, you know, Sammy over here.
Well, I don't back check. So you wouldn't say that.
No. I'm sorry. Hey, tongue in cheek.
You think that's a criticism?
Yes.
Oh, come on. You have friends?
No, but he's great.
Friends work?
Hey, it comes across tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
He didn't say it because he's just picking anybody. He doesn't think he back checks enough.
I mean, I thought he was just being a goofball.
No. That's a message. That's a little truth serum.
Well, behind most jokes, there is a little bit of something.
So he's just
back
picking.
checking finally.
Well, no, we know that Willie has historically that has not been a strength of his, but you know,
maybe it should be.
Yeah, that's very true.
Maybe it should be a little bit more. We're trying to get out of a first round.
Yeah.
No one's saying that you got to lead us in back checking, but finally.
Yeah, and he even threw in, I think, a qualifier after that. He's finally there, back checking. Finally, sometimes.
He's great.
Anyways, good on Rasmus. He went up a couple of notches for me with that comment.
It's great.
Nice to see Matthews back, though. If we mentioned, we kind of glazed
Didn't
past
we
that
call
point.
him shooting it through Mrazek yesterday?
Yeah. I was going to talk about, Mrazek was bad. Holy hell, he was bad.
Willie didn't even get a shot on net on the goal he scored, I don't think. He was behind the goal line and pushed it into him.
He's the perfect guy for them.
He really is. But, man, that is a perplexing contract that he was handed.
It is now, for sure.
Arguably
the worst of Dubas's time here, the Peter Mrazek deal for UFA.
I don't think arguably. I mean, who else would it be?
Well, we haven't seen the end story to Matt Murray yet.
Rich is great.
Yeah, but that's 2 years. I guess it would be Rich. Well, yeah,
that was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, Richie was not great. But I guess the Matt Murray one would be ending at the same time, and it's more money. So maybe you're right.
Just we'll see how a few things play out.
Quite the suggestion.
I mean, what about Tavares too? We could talk about that one.
Oh, come on. Come on.
I'm joking.
Before we
kid.
dive a little deeper into that, just thoughts again. The name that we've bannered about the last little while, Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Patrick Kane last night where the Chicago Blackhawks have just sucked the life right out of this guy. I saw nothing out of Patrick Kane that suggests to me that teams would be clamoring right now to go get him.
I'm going to open up your column here right now because you said many things in this column, and I think we'll mention it many times today. Excellent column by Kyper. The Leafs played hardball with Kyle Dubas. Now the clock is ticking. You did mention Patrick Kane at one point. You mentioned that not a lot of people beating down Kyle Davidson's door. For the concerns for people are salaries, health, performance, motivation. Like, it's a long list.
It's a long list.
And you can see why everyone would go, I think I can find what I'm looking for without shopping at Farm Boy.
Well,
I'm just going to go to, the no frills.
I'm not suggesting that teams will not want to trade for him yet. I think there's still time, but I saw no life out of him last night.
I didn't either.
And I think there's a combination of a lot of things, including first and foremost, how healthy is he with his hip? But the other one is like, what have the Chicago Blackhawks done to this guy that he looks down and out and beaten up?
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough to know, Kyper, at this point in the guy's career, what is just like natural decline. Typically, elite players, like Hall of Fame guys like Kane, they don't score 92 points and then become bums. So you're right that maybe there's some sort of he's defeated or he's a little injured or whatever it is.
He knows he's not coming back. He envisioned himself being a Chicago Blackhawk the rest of his career.
Yeah.
And reality set in. They don't want me anymore. They won't re-sign me. I have to get out now. Do I get out now? Do I wait? He just looked like a guy that had a ton on his mind, and playing last night at a level that he's been accustomed to was not in the equation.
So fellow producer here, Mike Gentili, sent me these stats with Patrick Kane this year, and last year he had 92 points. He had 66 assists, and this was 26 goals in 78 games. He had a, 0.33 goals per game. This year, he has 9 goals in 50 games for a 0.18 goals per game, and he's at a 0.7 point per game, and he was at 1.17 last year. Yeah. So, there's just been a significant drop-off, and I think the most obvious thing is to say, it's playing on a crappy team. But to me, that drop-off, there's got to be, he's fighting something, boys. It's like that, there's smoke, there's fire.
Father time, man.
No, I don't think at his age.
I agree. You're not going to have that
what is
big
he, 34?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he's 34 of 14 years and playoff runs, and there were years. I remember reading something about miles on a guy. There was an NBA thing about how many games and playoff games and whatever. He's had hard miles on his machine. But that could be why it's breaking down. And you're right. That's what's holding him back from being the player.
Yeah.
But
you can't forget about the other things that I mentioned was you're trying to fit in
10.5.
$10.5 million.
So even if you double retain, now you got to pay more assets because you got to pay another team. Why are you breaking your back to make it happen for a guy you're not sure fits? It doesn't work here.
And how many teams can do that? Now the Rangers are out. Would the Leafs be in the mix? Leaf alumni Carlo Koliakovo mentioned Rangers and the Leafs were high on his priority list. If that's the case, that's a big challenge now to try to make his 10.5 fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs, even on the day of March 3rd.
Yeah. So if it's not Toronto, like I don't think he's going to go play for Carolina or something. Like he seems to want to be in a big city in a big market with a real chance. Not that Carolina doesn't have a real chance.
He's not chasing his first Stanley Cup either.
Yeah,
he's been there before.
Not desperation.
His name's on it 3 times.
The best.
He's not chasing a cup like other players would be at his age.
And the best thing he
Awesome
could do
point.
is say, I am going to get healthy. I'm going to become a free agent this summer, play wherever I choose to play with no restrictions. I'm going to get healthy. I'm not going to be a part of this Blackhawks circus from February or March 3rd to whatever, and just sit it out. You mentioned that in your article as a suggestion. That's the most likely case is what you saw for Patrick Kane is just sit it out and get healthy.
Okay.
We'll talk about playoffs.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, terrific job on your book, #1 on Amazon, but you aren't the only writer here.
No.
Johnny Journalist.
Johnny Journalist. I was at it again for the Toronto Star. If you get a chance, my article's out. You can find it on my Twitter, Real Kyper. Talked about Kyle Dubas and the clock ticking on his situation. I touched on the fact that I thought it could have helped maybe the scenario for him and maybe the team in general if they would have just added 1 more year to his contract, something that's been historically standard for coaches, general managers. They didn't want to do that. And I'm just wondering right now, from your perspective, not only on the article, but where's this heading for Kyle Dubas with 2 weeks to go? How much pressure is on this guy right now?
Yeah, I thought the article is maybe your best one yet. I thought
I'll take the maybe out of that. It's the
Okay.
best one yet.
Yeah.
Kipper. You're getting better. You're getting hot.
Oh, yeah, listen, I got this guy, Stinky Pete or Sneaky Pete on Twitter. He texts me, he goes, tell the truth. Who's your ghostwriter? No way you're putting this together on your own.
Did you tell them that they're an answer?
I was like, because there's some really good writers out there. They're clamoring to help me out right now, right? They don't have anything better to do. I'm evolving. But anyways, thanks, man. I appreciate the compliment.
But it's also a zag for you when, most people would have expected a zig here because I don't know that this season you were of the mind that he should have been extended.
Yeah. And I think as the season's progressed, and again, we are talking about 32 teams, and he's put the Leafs in another year where they are a top 5 team.
Yep.
They're contending. There's a lot of people there's a lot of good hockey people that believe that they can be dangerous or they can win.
Yeah.
And we're one of them.
Yep.
When you have world-class talent out there with Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares still contributing at a very high level, like there's something to be said about that. And it's not that if they lose again, I don't believe that he should be fired.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that at least it could have come with that easy cushion of not kind of completely hanging him out there. And I used in my article the comparison to Bruce Boudreau without the circus atmosphere, with the comments and the follow of that whole soap opera that's been gladly avoided here. But the messaging's the same. It's like, we don't trust you anymore to move on past this year. So prove us wrong.
The other thing that I thought was a good point amongst many in the article is like the idea that when you get fired as a general manager, let's say they lose in the playoffs, that takes you to May, they fire you in May, you're not exactly set up to then become the manager of the Bruins or, whatever. How many GM jobs are there per year? Like 1, 2, 3, not many open up. So that 1 year sort of grace is usually like, okay, if we decide to fire you, you're going to be able to look for work while you're, unemployed. Because it's tough to be like, we're going to play out your contract. By the time you go into summer and you find out you need work, there's no work.
Well, you follow, sometimes you read some of the comments that follow once you tweet out. And one of the ones that stood out to me is that old scenario is this is the real world. People are in positions at work all the time. They don't get an extra added
Insurance,
year
yeah.
to protect their families. And yes, I get that and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't talking about an everyday guy in an everyday
No, it's not.
job.
It's not real world.
This is the real
GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
hey, in a corporate billion-dollar industry,
Yeah.
executives in billion-dollar corporations have severance packages.
Right.
They are
Not
left,
to say any of the golden parachute stuff is right or fair, but
No,
that
but
is
it's the real
common
world.
in there.
It's common
Yeah.
because you are one of 32 in the world that can hold this position.
Yeah.
And with that comes certain leverage or certain expectations that if things don't work out, you are rather well protected.
Yeah.
And maybe this standard that teams have had over the years, maybe it's changing today. Maybe the owners are sitting there going, okay, that's the way it was back then.
Yeah.
That's not the way it's going to be now. Maybe we will treat you like we treat other employees. And to your point, they'll fire you when they want to fire you.
Yeah.
Right?
For
It's
sure.
not like, hey, if I'm gone, let me know in June so I can go find another job.
Right.
Like we've been in positions where
They may go through the draft and decide they don't
Right.
like the move you made there and
They-
say that's enough.
they could wait as long as, they want.
Yeah.
Up until his contract expires July 30th, of course.
Yeah. One thing that stood out too, though, is you were saying, you don't necessarily think it's Brendan making that call. It could be the board. You don't know, but maybe some speculation that is the idea.
Well, anything above you
Right.
has a hand in some way, shape, or form. So I'll throw it to you guys. Sammy, let's go to you first in Leaf Nation. Who is sending Kyle Dubas the message that you're not getting an extension until we get out of the first round? Who do you think set that? Brendan or maybe a board of directors?
As you laid out in your piece, I have a hard time thinking it's Brendan because he's gone this deep with him. I would imagine, doesn't Brendan have 1 year on his contract after this? Haven't you mentioned that?
No, Brendan got an extension.
This year.
No, I cannot confirm when it was.
But it's beyond
he's
this
got
year.
multi-years left. So Brendan would have gotten an extension and would not have Kyle wouldn't have been along with the ride for an extension.
So then do you think that, wouldn't you think, isn't it pretty simple that they'd want to be together for as long as he's here?
Have you ever put time and effort into letting someone think your idea is their idea? Like, I'm sure Brendan sat at the table with the board and they said, I think we should let Dubas, let's just play out this contract and not do anything. And Brendan went, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well, listen,
Like,
there could be a
whatever you guys think I think. Where's my extension?
There could be I don't know. Like, we don't know. So there could be a number of scenarios. How about the fact that maybe it is Brendan's call? Maybe it was like, hey, I believed in you. You've had 4 chances.
Yeah.
Team's not as tough as I'd like. And sometimes I do see the Saturday nights against Columbus where they look soft. And maybe it is Brendan who doesn't want to give it to him. Maybe Brendan's lost faith in him until he proves otherwise again in the first or second round. I mean, that's a scenario too. But I went with the thought that, like Sammy said, that, hey, I stuck my neck out for you 6 years ago, right? Over 6 years ago when I brought you in first as an assistant general manager out of the Sioux with 0 pro experience. And eyebrows were raised all across the board. And I had to turn around and say, this is a different kid. It's a different vision. I'm moving on. I'm evolving. I'm doing all of this.
Yeah. No, you're right. He feels like one of the first people. He wanted to be at the forefront of a wave of like young, intelligent way of looking at the game, and he's waiting for his. He bought the penny stock, and he's waiting for the big payout here, and it may not come.
So
but it might.
So if this contract goes out and he does not renew, what would be the danger spots that you're looking at for places to go? Because for me, Ottawa sticks out.
Oh, Dubas to go be the GM of Ottawa.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
is the suit closer to Ottawa or Toronto? I don't know geography in Ontario.
definitely closer to Toronto.
Is it okay?
For sure. But, like new ownership, sexy young guy who was running the bitter rival for a long time. Pierre Dorian, who hasn't, that's to me the danger spot.
This is my nightmare.
I am just kind of living this out on the radio with you guys right now, but it's just something like there are going to be teams that would be extremely interested in Kyle Dubas, right?
I think
Listen,
so.
there are many great qualities that Kyle has shown us already, and one of them is finding undervalued assets.
Yeah.
Like that's a bit of a gift that he has.
Yeah, he's done well at that.
Okay.
For sure.
So where is the overall picture there? I mentioned in my article that there's some trades he'd love to have back.
Mm-hmm.
You
mentioned Bunting, Mikheyev, Camp, Labushkin, Timmins, like guys that he kind of found that ended up being NHLers.
Yeah.
Legit.
And then there's some
Camp.
ones he'd want over again.
Yeah.
Mason Marchman.
Oh.
I don't know if you saw this the other night, but
Kadri.
I forgot about that one.
Malgin talked for the Avalanche, so I think they
Did
won
he really?
Yeah, he did his first one since he got there, but he scored. He scored on Vasilevsky. Low blocker. Yeah.
The other point, and I only have like 700 words. I can't go on forever. Sometimes I can start writing, and
Well,
I'm
going
like, I
to get in the
can't
Kyper's
stop.
corner, and there's
But
lots.
The other thing too is, to Sammy's point, like there are only 32 teams. A lot of them are locked in, committed. It's not a given that he will be working next September or October in a real influential position like being a general manager. And two names that stick out to me as young up-and-comers, new way of thinking, and where are they now? What is Jason Botterill, who at one time was considered the one of the top 40 under 40 from the Hockey News, and great future, goes to Buffalo. Then he gets fired, doesn't get any legit looks as the next general manager. He's now in Minnesota helping out Ron Francis as an assistant general manager, but it's not a given he'll ever
Get
be a general
another
manager
crack.
again. And the other one for me is Chaika. Brilliant hockey mind, young, think the game differently.
Right.
Can't get back in.
Does he want back in? What happened there? Like, isn't there an explanation about how that unfolded? What a strange.
Well, that had to do with the testing of players before the eligibility of the combat.
Yeah, the combine.
The combine, sorry.
They should have been combat. That'd have been
Really bad with my words today.
Well, I mean, they gave, not to, give it, didn't think it was going to be praising John Chaika on the air today, but he gave Bill Armstrong one of the best assets in the league with Jacob Chychrun on that long-term contract that they signed. Well, because they were kind of the first ones that were doing those early gambles, right? You think of Keller, he signed to that long contract. Chychrun, I think he did the OLE one, which not as good as those other two, but what did I say? OLE? Yeah,
you're listening.
Oliver Leckman Arson.
Nice job.
You're listening to me butcher words today. That's why.
Lawson Krause, I think he gave the extension to. Like, there's, he was one of the first guys to do that. So, anyways.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's not. It's hard. It's hard, and you don't know. You don't know when you're going to get back in.
But I think Dubas is more accomplished than those two guys.
But I still think there's a point to be made about the young guys here. Like, you'd ideally like your guy to go through his learning curve, not with you. Like, certainly now wherever he goes next, he is armed with information on what has worked, what hasn't, how to build the staff, how to this has been great for him. Well, he's well positioned, but the team.
This is the perfect, they trusted maybe the most important stretch of Toronto Maple Leafs hockey in the last, 3 decades to a rookie general manager.
Yeah.
And fired, I guess, put him up higher in the front office with Lou Lamoriello, one of the most accomplished,
Lou didn't want any part
and he
in
was gone
mentoring,
immediately.
though.
So, it was a risk when it happened.
I will say, though, all this, and I've been talking about it pretty flippantly, I still really believe that Dubas is a thoughtful, smart hockey guy.
Agree.
And
I'm terrified of life without him.
right.
I honestly
what
am.
comes next when they hire whoever it may be. But
I'll tell you, changes because anyone that gets hired, it's on the concept of what you guys have been doing wrong.
Correct.
And what I'm going to do to correct it. And
your
you
team's
don't,
out of shape.
well,
You're doing
let me
army
tell you
crawls?
Yeah. In the
don't
front
know.
office. Pridham's up there just,
when does a guy ever get hired and look around the room and go,
I nailed it.
oh, listen, everything looks great. I'm not touching it at all.
You guys just got unlucky in some playoff games. I'm not changing anything.
Well, don't you think I'm so caught in the middle of fascinating with a new fresh set of eyes in this roster versus the great unknown without Kyle Dubas. It's one that I don't know which side I'm on, but it's really going to be a fascinating thing to watch down the stretch here.
One more before we go to break.
Yeah, good.
The next 2 weeks for Kyle Dubas.
Mm-hmm.
Will it decide his fate?
Yes.
Or will the players that are here now decide his fate?
They need help, Kip. They're so close.
I think if there's one thing that's going to be deciding his fate, it's the goaltending.
Yeah.
If I was going to be Brendan Shanahan or MLSE board,
Not
whoever,
the blue line, not the forwards.
goaltending.
Power play. Yeah.
I think that
They've just
you're
never.
putting way too much pressure on Samsonov.
No,
No,
he's not doing
no,
it.
no,
But
it just
I
mean-
agree with Sam. If
I
you
just-
look back at
this
Dubas's
is
runs here,
record.
and it's like you gave it to
I
Jack
think
Campbell
Samsonov
and
could be
Ilya Samsonov.
everything that you ask for, but the blue line will still hurt the Leafs.
The blue line was fine last year in the playoffs, and Jack Campbell was no good.
He
Sorry.
was
I
fine.
don't think he was
No,
that bad.
No, he was fine.
Oh, yeah, he was, 895. Yeah, it was
I
great.
know.
it's
You
great.
can only hold up a couple of goals you didn't love.
And Peter Mrazek was signed by, this goaltending bets have been bad, and goaltending is very important in hockey.
Heard that.
Jim Ralph, who was a goaltender,
Ooh,
may or may not join us next.
segue.
I think he will.
There you go.
He better, because we haven't had him on in a while. That's Jim Ralph, the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, radio color analyst, will join us after the break. You're watching, listening, giving us a thumbs up on YouTube. Real Kyper and Bourne.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
It's almost twice I got caught coming on air, and the three of us, about 3 minutes to air before the show, we're all at our desks going, oh my God, what time is it?
That's so bizarre. Usually, like waiting out here 5 minutes prior.
It was 2:57. I looked at my phone. I'm like, we should do the show.
Radio show.
Yeah,
And
anyways.
Kyper and I were just watching Good Will Hunting in here.
We're like, we're coming back on air.
Oh my God.
What was your favorite line again?
The best part of my day is the 10 seconds when I get out of my car, hoping you're not there.
All right. That's kind of like us, just 10 seconds before Jimmy Ralph comes on our show. Ralphie, how are you, pal?
Good. Watching some golf.
How's Tiger doing?
1 under after 2.
Let's
Wow.
go. He's winning.
And now wouldn't that be the greatest sport to broadcast?
Yeah, I just fall
I
asleep
love
and no one notices for 3 holes.
Can't they fix it
Oh,
where
yeah,
he
no.
wins it?
But most of it's on tape delay, so you know what's coming up. I think it'd be to sit there in the nice weather and talk about golf, throw it down to Dottie Pepper. And,
Jim, I think he's going to hit a good one here. Oh, he did. He stiffed it.
Let's go quickly now to Nick Kypreos from Toronto, Ontario.
There you go.
College standout at North Bay University.
Close enough on the pronunciation, for sure. Ralphie, did the Leafs get the job done last night against a bad team? Isn't this the way it should look last Saturday against Columbus?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Chicago wasn't very good, and they got them on the second of back-to-backs, and the Murphy puts one into his own net off a stick through Mrazek. Mrazek gets caught out in another one, and okay, you take those 2 away, and all of it. Not that Chicago had a lot, generated a lot offensively, but you take those 2 goals away, and all of a sudden it's a close game. But yeah, they got it done. I thought they responded after what we saw Saturday against Columbus.
It's rare to hear a coach say what Sheldon Keefe said after the game, where he was like, the old line when you get beat 8-0, he was like, we're going to flush that one and just move on. Like he just acknowledged that the Blackhawks were basically not an NHL team last night. Did you get that sense watching the game that the Blackhawks are kind of playing it out in a half-hearted way? It was kind of depressing. Yeah,
and I would have said the same thing about Columbus halfway through the first period.
Really?
Saturday night.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that the Leafs seem to battle against the bottom 8 teams is giving them a reason to get excited about a game. And unfortunately last night when Chicago started to push back, the Leafs then hit them with the knockout punch and you could see Chicago say, okay, let's move on. Let's go to Winnipeg or wherever they are next and get through this. So I think that's always been the Leafs, and I think. The thing they've battled with the most is they give teams, I think Columbus, Anaheim, Chicago are the lowest scoring teams in the league, yet the Leafs have blown 2-goal leads to both Anaheim and Columbus this year. So I think that's been their problem is not having that kill mentality when you've got the opportunity. And last night, at least, they seemed to execute that a lot better.
We're talking to Jimmy Ralph, Newmarket St. Great, and Toronto Maple Leaf radio color analyst.
Nice.
And the closest I've ever came.
Wait, I'm only great from my 2 years in Newmarket.
And junior standout in Ottawa, and my only legitimate chance of scoring a professional contract in the or a hat trick in the American Hockey League came on Ralphie.
I know. I can't believe they wouldn't have pulled me after you got one.
Speaking of goaltenders, 27 games to go for the Toronto Maple Leafs in this regular season. How many does Samsonov have to play to be ready for game 1?
I think there are a lot of factors come in, and obviously the health of Matt Murray is one. I think technically when you look at contract length and everything else, he's the guy you want to have ready. But, man, it would be pretty hard to trust his health, wouldn't it, down the stretch? I mean, I think, you could go with Samsonov 2/3, whether it's Wall, whether it's Shelgren, whether it's Matt Murray comes back. But I'd say 2 out of 3 would probably have him ready to go.
The question I have as we entered the deadline here about this team is like, do you think something will happen with the Leafs and adding a insurance policy in net? Like, can you see them going out and saying, hey, just in case we want to add someone, given we don't really know what they got in net?
Yeah, I don't. You know what? The tough part, Bourne, would be making the list.
Right. Who is it?
Yeah, I mean, as a James Reimer type that you might try to go after for a little bit of depth. That's I'd want to see the list of guys available that you can get without giving up too much before I'd say that. Yeah, you go ahead and pull the trigger on that. But right now, the bottom line is anybody that plays Tampa in the first round. And obviously, we can make a pretty good guess right here in February as to who it might be.
Right.
You're still going to be the second best goaltender in the series, and I think that's where you're just hoping you can get a performance like what Jack Campbell did last year, where he doesn't cost you any games, because eventually Vasilevsky's going to steal a few. So, and I think that's the big concern you have. And really, through the first 6 games last year in that series against Tampa, Vasilevsky wasn't the factor, until Game 7 when you can only get one past him.
Hey, Ralphie, did you hear Rasmus Sandin's comment on Willie Nylander, tongue-in-cheek, about back-checking by chance?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Sammy, can you... Oh, Sammy's waving me off here. What happened to our trusted Derek?
Oh, he's figuring
Sammy's looking. We don't know what you're going to get. You could get a traffic report right now, Ralphie.
Well,
okay, here it is. Here it is. He's back checking finally. Rasmus Sandin. I like Rasmus. He must be a fun guy to be in the room. But listen, JB and I went back and forth on this. Is there a little bit of truth to what Rasmus said?
Yeah, but I think Nylander's been better since Sandin's been in the league. With all due respect to the experience of the young Swedish blue liner. But there's definitely, we're seeing things with a Nylander that we've never seen in his career before, which includes his willingness to engage in battles and win battles. And,
yes,
he looks like a dominant player.
Yeah.
And I always thought, and I was one of the ones that, maybe even a couple of years ago said, trade him now because his value will never be higher. And his value is higher, and I wouldn't trade him, for any kind of deal, because I think he's really established himself as not just being the fourth of the top 4 that he could drive a team, and we've been seeing it on a pretty regular basis, and at both ends of the ice, and winning battles in corners and everything else, and you tip your hat to him. Maybe as Rasmus Sandin says, you tip your hat to him finally, but we're seeing a lot of good things out of him.
So, Ralphie, with those guys being sort of solidified, they're not going anywhere. That's been the plan from day one for Kyle Dubas. Do you have a wish list for the Leafs? What you're hoping to see that you feel like can get them past or gives them the best chance to get past the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Timo Meier is still. You're thinking if he could come here and fit in on the top 6, that'd be pretty lethal,
wouldn't it?
So that would be the one guy. But, when and this is a discussion we always have sitting around saying, when was the last impact trade that led to a championship? That people always, obviously want to use the Butch Goring comparison, but Butch really wasn't an impact player till he got to the Islanders. And, they win the 4 cups and he wins the Conn Smythe Trophy and everything. Ray Bourque going to Colorado, they didn't win till the following year. And we remember Rick Nash and Jaromir Jagr and all these deadlines that you thought would be the deciding factor, but it always seems to be more like a Nick Paul trade than than for a big name.
It's almost as if the mystique of a trade deadline is, I don't know if overblown or overhyped, but to your point, how many are there that are impactful, which means the next 2 weeks for Kyle Dubas might be more about what he still has than what he potentially could get in the next 14 days.
Yeah, I think, it's, and everybody seems to have the same wish list, and it usually involves the word depth, a depth defenseman or a depth forward. I think you might, and then this is where I think you go back to a Ryan O'Reilly possibility, character, even though he's had a tough years with injuries, plus minus, and everything else. I mean, he was Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and I remember when he was in Buffalo, Joe and I saying on the air, wouldn't he be a guy that you'd love to have in the playoffs? But he looks like he's just made for that grind. And, if it's, it might be more if you're trying to get character as opposed to skill. So it'll be pretty interesting to see the way it plays out. And then, of course, a big part of that is what do you have to give up? How much of the future do you have to mortgage for it?
So, you're trying to fill in around the team, and Dubas has said himself that he's not sure that it'll be the biggest names. It may be, just players that help them all over the lineup. Who of the guys that have been called up to play with the Leafs, the Holmberg and Anderson and McMahon, and who do you like? Aston Reese, who gets those bottom spots in your mind, even if they make an ad or two?
Yeah, I mean, I've liked Bobby McMahon when he's been up. I thought he might have gotten a little longer look than he did. But I don't know if there's anybody you looked at. I mean, I look more at the when it was Kampf, Kerfoot, and Engvall together. I thought it was a very solid third line. And then, with injuries or different call-ups, you see different combinations. Holmberg, I'd be very comfortable with going into the playoffs with him as your number 4 center for sure. But I still think there's that, Aston Reese I like because I think he embraces the role. You remember when Mikheyev was here, it was always about he wanted more ice time. He wanted better responsibility and options to put up better numbers. I think it's so important for your bottom 6 guys to embrace the role. To say, if I'm going to get 8 minutes a game, and I think Aston Reese is one of those guys that give me my 8 minutes and I'll deliver something for you. Because, you show up without a contract in training camp, you make the team, he's just thrilled to be here. So I think that's what you're kind of looking at from your bottom 6 is the guys that are very comfortable and saying, okay, we don't have the most glorious roles, but we take a lot of pride in being able to do our jobs.
Ralph, we had a pretty healthy conversation yesterday on the vision of even a Pat Kane coming to the Toronto Maple Leafs and where he would fit in. And is it with Tavares? Is it with Nylander? Is it with Marner? But that was based on an assumption that you were going to get a good Pat Kane. You called the game last night. You saw him. Is there anything that could get you excited to say all this guy needs is a fresh coat of paint on a new team? Or was last night one of those games where you said maybe he's best if he shuts it down?
Yeah, there was nothing last night that said, "Boy, that's the cup right there." if you can,
right.
If you can swing that deal, it's in the bag. I think one of the things you worry about as well is, he doesn't really want to leave. You talked about disappointment and the trade Tarasenko going to the Rangers, but you wonder how much his heart would be in it. I think that would be my concern, and. I think you can even look at Johnny Gaudreau in Calgary last year. I think he knew he was on his way out, so how invested was he in the playoffs? I think that's those things do come into play. He's already won his cups and his NHL awards. Patrick Kane has. So, and it's not a knock on him and his abilities right now as a player, but you just wonder if that intangible is there, if he'd be able to bring that to win another championship with a different team. I think that's a pretty valid concern.
Ralphie, I know we have you on to talk about the Leafs all the time, but you mentioned Erik Karlsson earlier. I wanted to know your thoughts on the Oilers and what's going on there. I know they lost last night, but Does that look like Canada's best hope this year? And maybe you're a Jets guy, Flames guy, but boy, the Oilers sure look pretty good to me.
Yeah, but it's again, it's kind of what the Leafs are going through with goaltending, and Jack Campbell's been better of late, but you still wonder is defense and goaltending going to be the downfall for them? Certainly they've got the hard to argue they've got two of the best players in the world, but and adding Evander Kane has certainly given them a different element as Zach Hyman, but. I think I'd still give the Leafs no, I shouldn't say this either. You guys are going to tape this and stick it on Twitter or something. I'm going to get crucified later for it. I don't know if I'd say Edmonton is a clear-cut favorite.
Yeah.
I think the Leafs are up there, but Edmonton may get a little more favorable first-round opponent, that's for sure.
Yeah. You touched on Zach Hyman, and you've been calling the Leafs games for a long time. We all watched him get, I think it was Lou Lamoriello at the time that traded for his rights out of Florida. Mm-hmm. He comes to the Leafs.
Yeah.
He works himself into a scenario where he's on the number one line, albeit some people question this guy being on a line with Matthews or Marner. And Babcock just said, no, this is the guy that could drive lanes open for the star players. And then the Leafs lose him. Ralphie ends up in Edmonton, and on pace, if I last checked, was for about 96 points. You saw this coming right from the get-go, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, as soon as Lou got him from Florida. I hope they win a cup while he's here, because they're not going to be able to hold on to him. No, but I mean, there's you give him a lot of credit. He's worked. I don't think out of all the players you've ever seen, he's one guy you never question his work ethic or his desire. But pretty charmed life too, to end up in Toronto at the same time Matthews and Marner and Tavares, and then. You decide you're going to cash in your free agency to play with McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, that's pretty much a dream career already, isn't it? And he's delivered. I mean, it's not as if he's not a big part of that success either, but a little different than, say, starting in Arizona or Chicago and, trying to find your way in the NHL. So he's been a great fit. And, whether you give Lou or Mike Babcock credit for seeing that in the player. And, let's face it, there's skill that has to be there as well. Look at how long it took for the Leafs last year to find Michael Bunting to play with Matthews and Marner. It's you always think it's an easy thing to play with skilled players, but you've got to bring a certain element to it. Zach Hyman's been able to do that.
Hey, who was your Matthews and Marner in Newmarket when you played?
Oh, let's see. Well, Marty Dahlman. I don't know if you remember Marty Dahlman.
I do remember Marty. Oh, yes.
Yeah. He's a 50-goal guy there.
Yeah.
And I'll go Darryl Evans, because Evie had the goal in overtime in the Miracle in Manchester.
Yeah.
And what I loved about Evie, and he does color for the Kings radio broadcast. We used to stay out after practice. Grant Fuhr was a goalie when he scored off the faceoff, and we used to try to replicate that goal. And anyone sweeping the stands or whatever was in danger, because I don't know how Evie scored in overtime. It would be off the glass or the scoreboard everywhere, trying to find that top corner off the draw again. But I mean, he could hammer it. Like, one of his nicknames was Reggie, because the guys compared him to Reggie Jackson. How hard he could hammer it. But that's all I got at the end.
It's good enough for us, Ralphie. Always good enough for us. Thanks for joining us, pal.
Sorry, I hope it was good enough.
Thanks, Ralphie.
Jim Ralph, radio color analyst for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You've seen that, right? The Miracle on Manchester with Evans scoring the big goal.
No, I don't think I have.
Outside of obviously their Stanley Cups, man, that was an incredible moment, beating the Edmonton Oilers, the great Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
You're too young.
I got some highlight searching to do here.
All right, anywhere else you want to go?
I got a question for you guys. There's a theory that, I don't know if one of you brought it up to me or I heard it somewhere, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot with this trade deadline coming up and the Tampa Bay Lightning looming. And I watched a lot of the Tampa Bay Lightning again. They lost last night 1-0, but they kicked the absolute crap out of Phoenix. Their Tendy just played unbelievable. Connor Ingram had the game of his life.
They lost to Phoenix last night?
Yeah, 1-0.
Yeah.
In a
Happens,
shootout.
man. Happens.
But
So-
still, they still got a stinking point that
Yeah.
doesn't
Right.
help Leaf fans.
Right.
We can kick this theory around with Luke too after the break, and we can do it even after Luke. But is there any part of you that just is like, maybe you just don't do anything at the deadline?
For the Leafs?
Like, even if you're going to spend your first round pick, your Matthew Nyes, your Fraser Mitten, you look down the road, whatever your assets you think you have, your Topes, your Ronies, like, are they going to, like, Tampa is really good.
Like a
Really?
concession. Like, we don't think we can beat that team.
I think the Leafs, as presently constituted, can give them a run. But if you get, Ryan O'Reilly and Jake McCabe, are you that much closer? Like, is it that much of a difference? Like, do you just roll with Nyes and keep your picks and maybe you hope that you can beat them? Like, is that crazy?
I think you take the point you're making and tweak it a bit and say, okay, we're going to add, a depth guy or two and maybe a seventh D and take a kick. Like, they're obviously going to do something. It's just a matter of, do you want to spend the things you're talking about?
Well, I know we're going to go to break here soon, but I think Sam brings up the point that if you're watching Boston carefully and you really, really believe that it'll take something huge to knock them off, or if you want to lump in Tampa, like,
you guys love Boston too much.
I like Tampa more than Boston.
How aggressive do you let Kyle be? And who above Kyle will go, we still got to protect a little bit of the next 3, 4, 5 years.
If he can't be aggressive, they shouldn't keep him employed. If you don't trust him to make trades, then fire him.
But you can, in the next 2 weeks, hurt what the team potentially could look like in the next 5 or 7 years.
For sure you can.
And that somebody above Kyle needs to be weary of that.
Well, that somebody then should have either employed him for longer or employed him for less time. Because you wrote about it and how he's in this position where you've left him in a spot where he has to make it. He has to go big.
But I would think that more than ever, Brendan Shanahan would have to be the eyes and ears for Leaf ownership, Bell and Rogers, to say that I'm not going to let this guy have a green light and maybe sink us for 5 or 7 years. And if you're going to give up Matthew Nyes, like, somebody's got to be going, okay, if we move Matthew Nyes, who's it for? And where is the rate of return in 3 or 5 years if Nyes is somewhere else helping someone?
How about this?
Well, then the spotlight to me goes like this to Brendan.
If Matt Nyes comes in and plays well, and they, God forbid, get past the first round or something, it's a much easier trade to make in the summer than it is at the deadline. Like, there's way more guys available in the summer if you're looking to, like, really improve. But I just I don't think there's enough.
Trade Matthew Nyes in the summer?
Maybe
no.
if he plays well.
No.
Like, I don't think there's anybody outside of Timo Meier, which is a flying pig thing to me. Like, when pigs fly, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's anyone I'm looking at that's anywhere close to worth Matthew Nyes to trade at this point. Like, I guess Chikrin, that doesn't seem like it's going to happen either. Like, there's other teams that are hot to trot. Like, I am really I'm watching Tampa a lot recently. They're really rounding into form. They look excellent, better, in fact, than last year. I just don't know if all the names that are available, anyone's going to get you that much closer. I really don't. I really don't.
Yeah, I think.
I think that's a legitimate point.
Yeah, see, to me, it's quitter talk. It's like it is. It's like what are we talking about here? Like,
it's not.
You took them to Game 7 within a goal last game, and this year going, boy, they sure winning a bunch of games. I don't know if we want to try hard this year.
They're better than they were last year.
Sammy's point
by what metric? Your opinion of the last few games?
Hagel's better. Colton's better.
Okay, Perry's worse and Maroon's worse and Belmar's worse.
Braden Point was hurt the whole playoff series last year. Like, Sergachev's better.
This is nonsense talk.
Okay.
No.
Anyways, I'm just saying. It's a thought that's
I'm with
crossed my mind.
Sammy on this one. I think there's legit, and it's not me quitting. It's just you have to be realistic.
They're not going to
here.
do nothing.
Right?
But don't trade your first-round pick and Matthew Nyes for this year.
You know, we see sexy names being mentioned every day by insiders just to keep the interest going, but I'm not sure how reality sets in that you're going to get someone that could definitively be a game changer to beat Tampa in Boston.
If Timo Meier doesn't qualify as a definitive game changer, then you're asking them to get McDavid. Like he is a legitimate top. You may not.
You may not get him.
If they trade Matthew Nyes for Timo Meier at this deadline, okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
And Chychrun. You lump him in there?
Yeah, I would, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know how many assets.
I don't want to see him go for O'Reilly either.
I don't think you have enough assets to go get Chychrun and Timo Meier. I don't. One of them is going to cost you Matthew Nyes.
Right.
And then after that, you are now running the risk of turning a team into a Chicago Blackhawks in 5 or 7 years.
Well, that's fine with me. Then if it's not a guy like that, then I don't want to see him go either. But, then it's someone else and it's not Nyes. Then it's, okay, you want to do Barbashev and Gavrikov? The Gavrikov ask ends up, it's ridiculous right now, but maybe it ends up being a first and a fourth and a fifth or something. So, okay.
We got to go. Let's go.
Okay.
We'll come back with
did
Luke
you tee
and
up
talk.
Luke Fox for me already?
I did. We said we're going to talk to Luke, but he's a good guy to run this by too. So
all right.
we'll keep this conversation going.
Quick break. Listen to what we have to tell you until we're back. Real Kyper and Bourne.
From the City News 680 Traffic Center, I'm Carlin.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
All right, Tammy, is he ready to go? All right, from a galaxy far, far away, let's welcome in Luke.
Are you my father?
Did you get that when you were a kid in school at all?
That's all I got. I got Luke Skywalker and Luke Duke from Dukes of Hazzard.
You do look like Luke Skywalker. You could pass for or maybe Yoda or I don't know. I forget my.
Can't be as bad
characters.
as Jason Bourne in terms of frequency, so I have no sympathy.
Congratulations on the book.
Thanks,
Justin.
fella. Appreciate that.
And even more so what it took to get to the point to write it. Seriously, that's an amazing accomplishment. I can't wait to read it.
Thanks, buddy. That means a lot to
Number
me.
1 right now on Amazon.
Oh, yeah?
Making us proud.
It's off to a good start.
I'm going to have to spring for an Amazon Prime free trial and get this thing.
Yeah, I know. I do that every so often, too. Treat myself to a free trial.
Yeah.
I got to take the attention off his book for 1 second. I wrote an article for the Toronto Star today, Luke, and it kind of plays around Kyle Dubas and the next 2 weeks. Really, your opinion right now on maybe the pressure he may feel or not feel, or where do you think his headspace is right now, Luke?
Oh, I think he's under pressure. Absolutely. But I also think that he's smart and patient and realizes that the decisions he makes in the next 2 weeks aren't just for the Maple Leafs. They're also for his resume, for what his next job may be after this, if they don't get out of the first round. So I would be very surprised if he did something reckless. I take him at his word when he says that he's not going to trade his first round pick or Matthew Nyes, his top prospect, who isn't signed, for a rental. I do think if he were to go that big, we're talking, Timo, Meier, something like that. I think he's going to be very cautious when it comes to rentals, and that's why you hear names like Jake McCabe and Sam Lafferty and Barbashev and these guys that might not move the needle, but are the safe play.
I mean, we had a little bit of a chit chat before the break here, and to me, the do nothing sort of play for the future's sake walks you into a loss, and then you got contracts up on Matthews and Nylander, and you're never guaranteed to be back in this position. It is going to be fascinating to see if Dubas feels the same desperation I'm talking about to sort of, you got to push chips in here a little bit. What are your thoughts on what Tampa Bay is and the perceived gap between them and Toronto, who I'll remind people on their show are currently ahead of them in the standings?
Yeah, well, to me,
by a point.
Well, just pointing that out.
There's 3 main things to me that where Tampa has the edge, and they're 3 really important things. One is the goaltender. Ilya Samsonov has 1 playoff game win.
All right, I didn't know he had any.
Vasilevsky, and he's lost 6 playoff games. That's his record. That's his experience.
Oh my God.
And he's already admitted to us bouts of nervousness, like going up against his old team, throwing in, and I don't blame him for it, but the game where he was thrown in suddenly, impromptu, when Matt Murray went down with his ankle. And just, you compare that to the, nerves of steel that Vasilevsky has and the resume Vasilevsky has. That concerns me if I'm a Leaf fan. The second thing is the bottom 6. Tampa has stars. Toronto has stars. We all know that Toronto's big 4 stars have to perform in the playoffs. They have to carry this team. But you just look at Tampa's third line right now, and it's Colton, Paul, Nemesnikov. You look at their fourth line, has experience and, nastiness, and Maroon, Belmar, Perry. And the Leafs are running this, trotting out Marlies and bringing in new Marlies every other week, and just still having tryouts. That there is no identity to the bottom 6. And, that's all due respect. I think Camp's a good player. I think Engvall has his moments, all these things. but just there's a consistency and an experience in that bottom six that would frighten the life out of me. And I think Kyle's going to address it. I just don't know if he's going to address it directly by seeking out a couple cheap bottom six guys or by getting someone in for a second line that bumps people down. But that has to be addressed. And the other thing is mental. This is a team that knows what it takes. The other team thinks that it has what it takes and hopes that it can figure it out. The confidence hanging around a Tampa dressing room, same with Boston, it'll blow your mind.
You know, the one thing that we all agreed on pretty much at the start of the show that it was a bit of a throwaway game. And Luke, you didn't have to go far from Sheldon Keefe to understand that he put zero stock in last night's game for reading or evaluating much of anything. But the one thing that I did get out of last night was that when it came to the offense, it's still last night against Chicago, who looked like an American Hockey League team. You had to go to Nylander, Tavares, and Matthews to score, and you didn't get anything out of a third line. No Engvall to be found, no Camp, no fourth line contributions at all. If they don't score, if the big boys don't score and carry it, and last night was another example of it, outside of 2 goals from Timmins and Sandin, they don't win.
And what if one of them's hurt, right? Like, even in that 5-game stretch without Matthews, they looked like a completely different team. They went 2-3. You know, they had a couple nice moments, a couple good games, but over a 7-game series against a legitimate team, forget about it. I mean, we saw it with Tavares in the Montreal series. So this all goes down to roster design in my mind. It's not basketball, it's hockey, and you put all your eggs in 4 baskets. And those guys better be healthy and they better perform, or else you have nothing there. You have nothing there to pick you up during those lulls. And I think it's a serious concern.
And also on the concern list, while we're addressing those, is Morgan Rielly this season has not seemed to have found a level that we know he can play at, the level he showed in the postseason last year. If you're not getting that version of Morgan, it doesn't feel like you have a number 1 D. Have you seen it? Is it coming around? What are your thoughts on Morgan Rielly's play so far?
It's starting to.
Okay.
I mean, he's got 2 goals now. It's funny. I mean, he's a defenseman, but he does like to contribute offensively. Like, that's his identity. And I think the point where it seemed to come around, and it's no coincidence, is when TJ Brody got healthy. Mm-hmm. He absolutely has to be paired with a safe defenseman. So, and by using Brody there, then you can't use Brody with Hall, and then Giordano, who's 39 years old, has to move up, and he, maybe on a contender, he's a third pair guy. I think he's been fantastic this season. He's actually the only Maple Leafs blue liner to have played every game now. And he's kind of, making Father Time look silly. He's played phenomenal, but I wonder on a real true Stanley Cup champion, if Gio's more like a 4 or 5 guy and not, a number 3. So as for Rielly, I think he's fine. I think he knows what he is. They know what he is, but he has to have the right partner, or else things get shaky quick.
We're joined by Luke Fox, writer for Sportsnet.ca. Luke, what are you hearing on Matt Murray in terms of his progress to get back in the lineup? And when he does, is there enough time to have Matt Murray challenge for Samsonov yet again for a number 1 spot, or is he realistically in a battle right now with Joseph Wall to back up?
No, I think he's still ahead of Wall when he's healthy, but we don't know when that is. Like that, they're being purposely vague in my mind about his timeline. Last we heard it was a couple weeks, and we did see him on the ice Thursday, a week ago today, but he wasn't a full participant in practice at all. He wasn't taking shots from the regulars. He was off on his own pad doing some very light work. Then he hasn't been. They haven't had like a proper team practice that he's participated in yet. So he needs to get a couple of those under his belt for sure. Now they're off today, so maybe that'll be one of the things myself and other reporters watch for tomorrow to see if he's participating, and that would be a huge step. But the runway is shrinking here, and Samsonov's played excellent. I think he's been great, and I think he has the number one job. It's his to run with, in my mind, unless he hits the skids. But we're running out of games here, I think, to pass the torch. I think he's gained the trust of not only the coaching staff, because his ability to stay healthy and his performance is strong, but also the skaters in front of him. There was a really telling moment that game that Murray backed out of with the sore ankle, and Samsonov was kind of thrust into action, where Morgan Riley said, "He's our guy," in relation to Samsonov. And until that point, the kind of company line from all the players was, "We don't care who's in that. We have faith in both guys." And maybe it was just something that slipped out, but the fact that he said, "Sammy's our guy," that spoke a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good pickup for sure.
Yeah, that is a shift in a mindset.
Yeah.
So talking about mindsets, I'm curious, we hear you, we play a lot of clips on our show, and you always ask great questions for Sheldon Keefe, often challenging ones.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're like, it's a partnership. You don't ask, don't ask them tough questions.
Do you get any sort of pushback? How's your relationship with Kiefer after pushing him sometimes?
I like to think that we're good. But I might need two hands to count the number of times I've irked him.
Yeah.
With a question. I know you guys play that "it's getting redundant" clip. That came from one of my questions. So, but you know what? I really like him as a guy. He'll answer everything. Yeah. And I also like the fact that he's honest. Like you guys were talking about last night, the fact that he said, "I'm not reading into this game because that was barely an NHL team." I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
But that's what he said. And I love that. I love that he didn't, try to sugarcoat it. I think there's moments where he wants to say even more and bites his tongue because he realizes what, writers like me, shows like your guys' show.
Sammy's waiting there with a clip button.
Oh, no. He's saved. I think we would have got canceled by now if Sheldon didn't save our show with his honest clips, his Kyper's Clippers.
Can confirm.
Yes. No. We've he's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he should be fired if you ask me that.
Yeah, that's good.
There's just at the ad though. I mean, we do believe if one goes, the other goes. Is there any scenario, Luke, you see that they make a general manager's change and keep Sheldon?
No. They're tied at the hip. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just wonder. I mean, I know Brendan's on good relations with the board and everything. I wonder if it's an embarrassing first round loss, if it even goes deeper. And that's not any knowledge I have. I just wonder if they're just kind of sick of it.
Brendan Shanahan deeper?
Yeah. Do you think that's a possibility? Like, what if they got swept, or what if they lost in 5 and they took a step back?
The one thing that you can always not completely count on is any city's reaction, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're one of the board of directors and you think that, if the changes can only come at one person's expense or maybe two, and you don't know the hour of the fire, right? And I don't know, you're right. Could it go deeper at this point with the level of frustration from Leaf fans and Leaf Nation? I wouldn't put it past anything to happen.
Just win, baby.
Right?
Yeah, I
think it's a long shot, Luke, that it would cost Brendan Shanahan his job this summer, a first round loss. That to me is highly unlikely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not calling for his head. I just wonder, like, Shanahan has kind of hitched his wagon to Dubas so firmly and been very loyal to him, and Dubas has been so loyal to Keefe. I just wonder, at what point do you make the cut?
Yeah.
All right. You're not calling for his head on our show, but you're saving it for a live press conference. Right?
Keep up the good work, Luke. We appreciate it, buddy.
Way to go, Luke. Hey, listen.
I hate this guy.
If you need any equipment on your next press conference, I got a garage full for you.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
Well, it means like
physical equipment. I think
physical equipment, shoulder pads, a helmet, a cage.
Yeah.
Right? If you need to go in there armed a little bit, I'll hook you up.
Elbows up. We'll kill that penalty for you.
All right.
Okay.
Luke Fox.
All right, Luke. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, he does stand out in those press conferences.
It does. Well, and it's supposed to be. It's Toronto. There's all this media, but if everyone asks gentle questions, then it's not really that. Tough a media city.
Gentle show.
No, we don't want a gentle show. Help us up, bud.
The next coach hopefully is long-winded too.
I mean,
for next year.
Did we even play the clip where Sheldon started to say that you expect better than that in the NHL, and then he was going to say in an NHL game or from an NHL
let's
team?
just listen to it.
Oh, we haven't played that yet today.
Let's listen to it.
Well, we got a tired team in here on a back-to-back, and it's it's a team that's. A team. I didn't think the game had much life to it. Yeah. So it's not what you come to expect. In terms of.
He's trying.
I'm in the NHL, and a lot of emotion in the game.
He's like, don't kill Chicago.
It's a game that we're happy to get through with 2 points.
That's a save. We got to save that one.
He was doing his best
not what you
to put down Chicago, but he couldn't.
Yeah, that's really not what you take $200.
It's not what you expect from an NHL.
You're a diehard Leaf fan. You leave that game last night. You're still pissed. Like, I just watched. Yeah, sure. You got to see Matthews shoot it under the bar. Willie Nylander scored a goal, but you're like, holy crap.
No one wants a good game. That's what they want. They want to win.
You think?
I don't know, to be honest.
Compare that game to the one a few Mondays ago with Calgary and the Rangers.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Like different sport.
Different planet.
Yes.
Yeah. It takes two to tango. The Leafs brought the energy and played well. They were dancing by themselves.
They knew pretty. Exactly 9 seconds into the match, they knew.
Yeah.
Willie scores, but
Blackhawks, yeah.
All right. Take a look around the league. What stood out last night? Dylan Larkin?
Yeah. He's got 9 points in 5 games since the All-Star break.
And no new contract.
I had it proposed to me today. If you could get Larkin on the Bo Horvat contract, what do you think? And I have an easy answer. It depends what yours is, Kip.
I think it'll end up there.
That number?
Yes, or right around that ballpark.
I mean, I love that. I would happily give that to Dylan Larkin. I think the way the salary cap is going over the next 8 years, if you can have a number 2 centerman making 8.5, who is a legitimate point per game, needle mover, hard-nosed guy, I love that. Very happy with that. So I don't know what he's asking Detroit for. Maybe 9.
I'd heard the Barzell contract.
Okay.
And what do we have Barzell at? 9.
Is he 9.5, Barzell?
I don't think he's that high.
9.25?
Ballpark, yes.
I'm moments away from providing this answer, but it's taking longer than I had hoped. Where the hell are the Islanders?
9.15.
9.15. Yeah.
So
I don't want to give him quite that, but
which starts
half.
next season, by the way.
It's apparent that Steve Yzerman doesn't want to give him that.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that guys should sign a deal that are immediately bargains is not reality, I think, or not necessarily like Tage Thompson's deal. You're like, where was your agent on that one? Should he maybe held on, pump the brakes a bit?
Yeah.
That's a disaster.
Well, now you're Brad Marchand. You're making 6.5 when you're a Hart Trophy guy for the next God knows how long. What's Thompson's deal for? 7 years?
You just
you're a $12 million dollar guy immediately.
But you pissed away 15 maybe right?
What do you mean you're saying like in a couple of years?
I'm just saying with his extension, he's not a 7.5.
7.5.
Or what is he, 7.1?
Whatever, if it's around there over 7 years.
What was it, Sammy? What was come on. Quick fingers here.
I think it was 7.
Tage Thompson.
Tage is 7 years.
7 years. And like
7 years, but how much?
7.1.
7.1.
49.99999.
When, like, that's like right now he's lost $20 million because he's not a 7, he's a 9.
9 is even, I don't know, like
9.5.
He's third or fourth. Was he fourth in the NHL in scoring? He's 25. He's 6'7".
Just to backtrack a little
Probably
bit
11.
on Dylan Larkin, like this has guys the Steven Stamkos, Yzerman, Tampa Bay negotiation all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
This is a complete blanket where you got a guy that really wants to stay and he wants to get paid, and maybe to Stevie Yzerman's credit, he's like that the part that where you really want to stay, I'm gonna challenge you for it, and maybe save the team
$500,000,
$750
a
year, and I'd like to have that.
I'm not going to pretend that doesn't matter. That matters.
So here's
to
the
a team.
question: Dylan Larkin, Michigan guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's ever been out of the state. I don't think he's ever played a hockey game.
No, he only
outside
plays
of
within
the
the
state.
borders of Michigan. Yes.
So will Dylan Larkin now leave Michigan for the first time in his life to go play hockey because he wants an extra $500,000 or $700,000 a year?
Seems unlikely, doesn't it?
I mean,
unlikely.
Probably not.
I mean, he said the best thing he ever did was play with Mitch Marner.
So
maybe that was...
Stevie Yzerman's going to try to save that $500 to $750 a year.
You don't think there's any chance Detroit falls out of it enough by March 3rd that they say,
pretty good.
What's Dylan Larkin worth at half a $6.3 million as a rental?
A lot.
Yeah, like a couple of firsts.
They won 4 in a row now, though. They're within sniffing distance.
They really are within sniffing distance.
Yeah.
I was just looking at this. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot.
Big 2 points last night in Edmonton.
With many games in hand. In fact, if you go by points percentage here, they are way up there. They're tied with the Sabres. They're in games played and everything, so they're right there.
He does have an NTC for this year, though.
Does he as a no move?
Yeah, the only year on the.
Yeah. Have a chit chat with him about that.
No, he's not going. They're not going to trade him at the deadline.
No, I know.
No.
But
How about trading him, renting him out, and then
bringing him back?
Yeah, I'm bringing him back.
I'm waiting for someone to do that. Someone who's like, I love the Red Wings. I want to be a Red Wing for life. I'm going to let them turn me into 2 firsts, and I'm going back.
No, it won't be 2 firsts.
For a retained Dylan Larkin, you don't think? Talking about Gavrikov being worth a first, a third, and a fourth, or whatever they're asking.
It's rentals are a first and a prospect.
Okay. If I'm him, then
And
I love the Red Wings.
And if you know he's not staying,
yeah, I'll go on a cup run with whoever. Send me away. I'm coming back in the summer. If you agree, if you agree that in my next deal, that 500 or 700 we were talking about, I'm getting that. You know what I mean? Like we were at between 8.5 to 9. You give me the 9, I'll let you trade me first.
Who was the guy in the Sharks that said they were like, we promise we'll give you all this money, and then he stunk and they gave him $1 million.
Kevin
LeBanc.
how would that make you feel if you absolutely knew a guy was coming in for just 30 games and he was going to just leave?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would say that. And I'm sure he'd like to win a Stanley Cup wherever he goes. He'd give you an effort, right? Go on a run for the Leafs, take him to the second round, the promised land. And then head back to Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Sammy, you got Oiler possible trades. What are you thinking of?
Bourne had something that he was.
Yeah. I had a guy send me
a guy.
I had a guy.
Had a guy who knew a guy.
Oh, yeah, you know how
Talk to a guy.
Yeah, this is now we're to the guy who's the gardener for whatever.
All right.
But the suggestion was just what would be enough to get Ekman Larsson? Carlson out of San Jose.
Oh, that's the guy that is in the cafeteria. Yeah, he asked me the same question.
Okay. So the thought was a first, a second, Yamo and Barry, and you get Carlson at $7 million.
A first,
a second, Yamamoto, and Barry, and you get a $7 million Carlson.
So they're retaining 4?
Yeah. So you're looking at 40% or whatever that is retained on Carlson. If you're the Oilers, do you make a move that significant?
Yes. Yeah, I'm the Oilers. Yes.
Carlson,
but I don't
Carlson
know.
at $7 million.
What if I'm the owner of the
7 times 4, right?
Yeah.
What if I'm the owner of the San Jose Sharks?
And I'm saying you're giving me 2 firsts and a second, and I get this guy off my books. You know, I'm only paying 4 now.
For 16, I got to eat 16 million.
You need 16 million to buy yourself 2 firsts and a second, Barry and Yamo, whatever.
I'd want a better pros. I'd rather not Yamamoto.
See,
Someone
first of
better.
all, I need a body back that I could.
Can I interest you in one
Barry
slightly
is
used
not-
Jesse Puljujärvi?
I need youth, right? I need youth.
Okay. Can
That's
I give
something
you
I can build.
Bouchard or
I think it's going to take a Bouchard
Yeah.
or a Broberg.
yeah.
Yeah, I need a
Someone
blue
who's
chip.
closer to being able to
blue
play.
chip.
Yeah.
but
Like Carlson,
I think 7's a really good number.
Eric Carlson is $7
Like
million.
think about now. Envision.
But I'd be shopping that around.
Envision now
that
that Carlson ends up winning the Norris on a bad San Jose team, and he's UFA. How many teams would run to sign him
Just
at
7
7 million
times.
Oh my
times
God.
4?
Every single team in the
Okay.
league. Yeah.
All right. So that's all you need to know
Yeah.
is that the Oilers would love Carlson and willing to take a chance at 7 times 4 for him.
Oh my God.
And
yes.
listen, this is after physicals. This is after, once again, checking under the hood, making sure the foot and the ankle is okay.
You've also made the best point, though, that he has a no trade in Edmonton. No disrespect to Edmonton itself, but it's not San Jose.
Well, there's a wife involved, family members. You don't just trade yourself
They have large
there.
impacts on decisions
They have
like
a
that.
few.
Yeah, I don't know if you've
Right?
been leaned on by
I'm not sure
your
they
partner.
want to start their car with a block heater.
You don't want to have a heated driveway, Kip?
Didn't Connor take a lot of heat
Yeah,
for his
yeah,
heated
yeah.
driveway?
Which is the most ridiculous thing ever. Rich guy gets a heated driveway in Edmonton.
If I was rich,
no kidding.
I just have a flamethrower. And that's what I would do.
Torching off the driveway.
Yeah.
All right. Part of my article today, I did talk to somebody who,
Cafeteria?
yeah, outside the cafeteria.
Okay.
Timo Meier and the Winnipeg Jets.
Hmm.
And the fact that there's going to be tremendous turnover
Yeah.
moving forward. And where do they want to go with Scheifele? We know Wheeler's done after next year. So is Scheifele. Pierre-Luc Dubois would like, in a perfect world, not to sign his qualifying offer next year and preferably be moved this summer.
He'll be gone this summer.
So
100%, right?
Timo Meier may be one of those guys where if you can trade for him and bring him in, it gives you a better chance to get him long term if you hit his number than it would be bidding
Oh, yeah.
with other teams as a UFA.
Are teams going to be allowed to discuss anything with Meier and his camp before a trade?
That would be whether it's allowed or not allowed is irrelevant.
Okay.
It will happen.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
I can tell you, Timo Meier's agent, whoever it is, he's fielding texts and calls about it.
Yeah.
That's
Like if Winnipeg says, no one's choosing Winnipeg necessarily. Not many people are. If we tell his agent, we'll do 8 times
like he
9.
is eligible to sign right now, is he not?
Yeah.
He's got
Yes,
his
he is.
contract runs out.
Yeah, at the end of the year.
You're allowed to sign 12 months out of your contract expiring, whether you are RFA or UFA. I would imagine that conversation has to happen and an agreement for you to go get Timo Meier. You don't give him up to watch him walk out the door again.
You're right. Watching where Winnipeg is at, you're about to be without, Wheeler for sure, Dubois for sure, like Scheifele maybe.
And we can
Maybe not.
there's probably a few debating whether or not Timo Meier would fall into the Bo Horvat, Dylan Larkin 8.5. Right?
Jeez, I have him above that, but yeah.
You have him above that? Okay.
Yeah, but not
So
significantly so.
Even if Winnipeg has to overpay $500,000 or $750,000 and take him to 9.5
Canada
or
tax.
even 10, you may have to because you're Winnipeg, Edmonton. They're challenged to go UFAs.
It's hard in Canada. It is.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Outside of Toronto and maybe Vancouver, there are challenges to attract UFAs.
And I think people can I hopefully take that without it being a slight. The taxes are higher and it's colder.
And there's pressure.
It's not,
Listen, you asked me like, hey, you want to go play in San Jose, wear flops to the rink every day and no one care? Well, that sounds pretty good.
I'll do my best.
The reason why Matthew Tkachuk is no longer a Calgary Flame is because he did not want to be in Canada.
Fair enough. You want to be in Florida where it's warm.
Just say it.
Sure. Yes.
Do you remember when we had his dad on?
Yes.
And he mentioned that customs. That's the way.
Is that your best Keith impression?
That's a good one.
By the way, Timo Meier's agent, Claude Lemieux. So there you go.
Yeah. So, but it's reality.
Yeah.
And they don't want to lose their luggage.
Also that. It's an interesting mindset though. You talk about like the lack of pressure. Like some people believe, they are superstars and they want that pressure. It'll make them celebrities. They like the attention. There are certain people drawn to that. Finding those people can be hard, but I kind of feel like Austin Matthews is that. And that should be encouraging for Leafs fans, that I think he likes this, right? I don't think he wants to be somewhere no one's paying attention. Do you? All right.
I'm here all day, I guess.
Don't get me in trouble here. The show's ending.
I asked a simple question.
It's all good. All marks, Saros.
Tonight, yeah.
What do you think?
I just like watching the Bruins and Tampa, just scouting. Just, pouring over the tape.
Did you play my app, Next Rewards, yesterday?
Yes, I did. I played it nonstop. I am rich. I'm running your pockets, buddy.
Okay.
He's living in your jeans.
We went from the NFL, which was our, like once a week you can play it, to like NHL hockey, which every night you can play up to 4 games.
Guess what? Guess what I'm doing tonight? Grinding on Next.
Four games at once.
4 games
too
at
many.
once.
It's just like.
Well, now I'm doing the math, and I could give away a free cup of coffee every night.
Every night to every player.
Yeah. So don't all download it at once, please.
Yeah, so I would say Boston, Nashville is the best. I guess Florida, Washington. They're kind of it's a bit of a poo-poo platter of games tonight. Not a ton of great ones, I wouldn't say. Detroit, Calgary, both 2 teams fighting for playoff position. Good jersey matchup there. A lot of red.
I'm on the telly tonight.
Oh, nice.
It's featuring David Pasternak. We'll have a bit on him. He is leading the NHL in one-timers this year, and just out of first in one-time goals. So we're going to have a little package on Pasternak taking 1 tees. UC Saros, best goalie in the NHL by goals saved above expected. Allmark number 2. So the best goalies going head-to-head in the league tonight.
Is Nashville out of it?
Yeah, Nashville's actually not just out of it; they're bad. So
what do you do with?
Now we're talking. That's a good carcass to pick at. That's a sexy one.
Yeah, there's meat.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
To pick from that one, a couple of.
If you're talking
the Leafs fans, hyenas.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about a guy I would trade Nyes for, Ekholm is at the top.
Angry yesterday is like, yeah, he lumbers around a little. I was like, amazing! Yes! Lumber! Like, listen to me, bring him here.
We need a lumber.
Bring me a lumberjack. He's got a beard. I want him.
All right, just like that.
Good show today, boys.
We're out of here.
Yeah, gotta go, team.
Thank you to Jim Ralph. Thank you to Luke Fox, Sportsnet.ca. How about tonight? You got the double header. You got to stay till 1 a.m. or are you good for just an early game?
Hockey Central and gone, my man.
Good for
See you later.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you for watching, listening, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube channel, Sportsnet Now. We love bringing it to you every day, weekly on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We're back tomorrow. Give us a rating and review if you can. A thumbs up on YouTube. See you tomorrow.